Now, we are back from Fort Washington Armory, and we go into the modern theater and the middle age theater and the Elizabethan theater with Walter Kerr. There was a very ominous article in the Wall Street Journal this week about the crushing costs of maintaining a city theater, a city opera company, even just a plain city orchestra. Now, why is this? This is because the most striking change in American life has been the development of suburbs, distant suburbs with all the conveniences laid on, so that the downtown area is becoming insolvent. Now, to remedy this, an architect has a dream, and it's called the Lincoln Project. Let's take a look at it. Now, here is a theater which contains parking lot and choice of several restaurants and a central booking box office where you buy your ticket for any one of 6 theaters. 5 of them are housed in this central block. And then the little theater over to the right, that is called Theater 6 or Q Theater. Let's take a look at the blueprint of it. These were all designed by Joe Miltzina. Now, this doesn't look to us like a theater, but it is. Here is where the audience sits. This is a great bowl. And the stage is nothing we'd recognize as a stage. It's all this area. They can use all these things or contract them as they choose. You notice there are no sets, no provision for sets. This is a screen, and here is a motion picture camera which would project slides onto a rear screen. Now, it looks pretty vague, but actually it's a brave attempt to create a practical theater. That's to say, a practical theater for us, to match the theater audience with the social life of the time. Now, Walter Kerr has taken a long and expert look at the way that the physical shape of the theater has dictated styles of acting and playwriting. And here he is to take off on The Theater Breaks Loose. Mr. Kerr.
Clearly, something is up in the world of the theater, in the very shape of the theater itself. We seem to be getting ready to tear down everything we've got, everything we've become used to, and put up something else and something quite strange in its place. I wonder if this is such a good idea. After all, we've got a great investment now in a number of perfectly sound, perfectly substantial theaters and stages across the country. And furthermore, on those stages, we've become very skillful at mounting beautifully arranged and thoroughly practical settings, more or less like this one. Sofa over here, stairway up there, liquor cabinet over on the other side. This, by the way, is what is called a box set, because the players are completely boxed in by 3 good, firm walls with good, firm doors. Well, fairly firm doors. They also have nice solid windows, the kind that a gangster could get through comfortably. Plus a genuine ceiling with a genuine chandelier hanging from it. All this furniture is nice and solid. You can sit on it, and you can pound on it. If you should want a book off these bookshelves over here, you can get one. That is to say, you can get one if you know where the director has put it. And in this miracle of realism here, we have absolute control of our lighting effects. Shakespeare may have had to play his plays in the open sunlight with absolutely no variation of any kind, no shading, not even for night scenes, but we don't have to. All we have to do is walk over here, sit down, put our hand on the lamp, and an electrician off stage somewhere will politely lower it for us. Late, as a rule, and you'll have to hold on until he does it, but he will do it. Still, this lighting is real. All of this is real, much more real than any theater of the past ever succeeded in being, ever dreamed of being. Real rugs on the stage floors. If you want them, real fires in the fireplaces. Oh, yes, real flowers in vases that can be moved from place to place while Mother is talking to Daddy. And telephones that engage in actual conversation.
Hello?
Hello, Mummy.
Can I stay downtown tonight?
Oh, yes, dear.
I met someone down here. I'd like to have dinner with him.
We'll see you later.
Righto.
Even in some plays, hot and cold running water. Or in a show like The Voice of the Turtle, an actual stove that can cook actual scrambled eggs. Obviously, we've come a long way since anybody had to hold up a sign saying, "This is the Forest of Arden." And isn't this the best theater we've ever had? Isn't it the one we've been working toward since the dawn of time, since the very beginning of theater? A more and more faithful, more and more exact imitation of life. Well, if it's so good, why should we change it? Because it's a prison. It's a prison for the actor. It's a prison for the playwright, even in one strange sense for the audience. Let me give you one quick hint what I mean. In the ancient Greek theater, the actor didn't have much in the way of our kind of scenery. He just had an enormous open space in which to play. But if Oedipus the king suddenly felt a strong and raging emotion, he had a lot of room in which to move with the emotion.
Do not refuse to speak.
No, I shall never tell you what I know.
What? You do know something and will not tell us? You will destroy us all and wreck the state?
Why persist in asking? You will not persuade me.
What a wicked old man you are. You try a stone's patience. Out with it! Have you no feeling at all?
What does it matter? Whether I speak or not, it is bound to come.
If it is bound to come, then you are bound to tell me.
No, I will not go on. Rage as you please.
Rage? Why not? And I'll tell you what I think. You planned it. You had it done. You all but killed him with your own hand.
And in the theater of Shakespeare, where there wasn't much scenery either, if Romeo was thrown into a whirlwind of passion, he had a broad, deep platform, an apron stage jutting halfway out into the audience on which to move passionately.
Oh, Romeo, Romeo, brave Mercutio's dead. That gallant spirit hath aspired the clouds, which too untimely here did scorn the earth.
This day's black fate on more days doth depend. This but begins the woe others must end.
Here comes the furious Tybalt back again.
Alive, in triumph, and Mercutio slain. Away to heaven, respective lenity, and fire-eyed fury be my conduct now. Now, Tybalt, take that villain back again that late thou gavest me. For Mercutio's soul is but a little way above our heads, staying for thine to keep him company. Either thou or I or both must go with him.
Thou wretched boy that didst consort him here, shout with him hence.
This shall determine that.
Now, here we are, back in our own perfectly appointed box set. And just suppose for a moment that we were going to try to play that same scene in it.
Oh, Romeo, Romeo, brave Mercutio's dead. That gallant spirit hath aspired the clouds, which too untimely here did scorn the earth.
This day's black fate on more days doth depend. This but begins the woe others must end.
Here comes the furious Tybalt back again.
Alive, in triumph, and Mercutio slain. Away to heaven, respective lenity, and fire-eyed fury be my conduct now. Now, Tybalt, take that villain back again that late thou gavest me. For Mercutio's soul is but a little way above our heads, staying for thine to keep him company. Either thou or I or both must go with him.
Thou wretched boy that didst consort him here, shalt with him hence.
This shall determine that.
Mr. Kerr, you tried. Of course, we don't try to play Shakespeare's plays in our modern settings at all. But that isn't quite the point. The point is that we can't play any scene like that in them. Any scene involving that much action, that much movement in our crowded settings. So, we don't write them. Our playwrights don't ask our actors to get themselves all heated up. We have to content ourselves with rather more discreet and plausible behavior. After all, it's a living room. And all our magnificent additions, tables, chairs, sofas, have turned the stage into something of an obstacle race. Or rather, they've pretty much prevented the race from ever being run. They've tied the actor down, pinned him to that comfortable furniture, bound him in by his surroundings. Even on occasion, they've made it just a little bit difficult to find him. At least they've blotted out part of that very expressive instrument, the actor's body. Notice here that we're getting an excellent view of that sofa. And this scene is going to have a profound effect on the women in the audience. It's going to send a lot of them out tomorrow to buy a copy of that lamp. Okay, we're stretching things a little. But our carefully detailed realism, flowers, fireplaces, sofas, stairways, do sometimes tend to take over, to gobble up the actor altogether. Like this. Now you see him? And now you don't. Let's just say that the actor today isn't quite as visible, quite as free, or quite as important in the scheme of things as he was in certain earlier theaters. The scenery is now bigger than he is. How did it get so much bigger? Well, it's been a long struggle. It's taken a lot of very hard work to arrive at this wonderful state of affairs. You'll remember that that Shakespearean platform we were looking at just a moment ago wasn't much more than an apron with some convenient doors at the back where the dressing rooms were concealed and a balcony up above it. The acting was done out in front. It was just shortly after Shakespeare's heyday when the theaters of the court decided that they'd like to see some pretty pictures up on their stages. Now, Italy had been experimenting with this sort of thing, so they borrowed some paintings from Italy and hung them up at the back of the stage. But, of course, you can't just have a loose piece of canvas flopping around back there. A picture needs a frame, so they borrowed the frame, too. Borrowed it from the art of painting, not from the natural art of the theater. And at first, it wasn't even meant for the actors. It wasn't supposed to frame them, only the picture. So it was first placed smack up against the picture, while the actors kept on acting very happily way downstage in front of it. Then the great squeeze began. The middle classes in England were becoming more and more powerful, and they wanted the painting to look more like their homes and their business offices, just as they wanted the plays to be about clerks and bankers. But clerks and bankers don't need so much open space to move around in, so we started to lop off that apron, bit by bit, year by year, pushing the actors back toward the frame, cutting the ground right out from under them, you might say. And at the same time, they started to move the frame forward, away from the painting and toward and over the actors. By the middle of the 19th century, there was some apron left, but not much. And most of the acting was being done down, in, and under. That picture frame we borrowed from another art, from painting, has finally become our all-embracing proscenium arch. The actors have been swallowed up. Well, they still have each other. And they still have some room on that stage. The side wings are wide open so that the actors can sweep in and out with some vigor. The main painting is pretty far away upstage, and a lot of the furniture is painted on it instead of cluttering up the actor's own territory. What happened to strike the final blow for realism and give us this box set? Science did. We began, in the middle of the 19th century, our great scientific forward march in every phase of life. Now, it's a curious thing, but you can always tell what an age is thinking about by looking at the shape of its physical theater and the way its actors behave. If the Greeks, for instance, had a great circle in which to work, if they stood straight up on this circle, reaching to the skies, if almost nobody ever sat down because there was nothing to sit on, it was because they were all too busy trying to reach into the heavens and relate themselves to the gods. That's what they were thinking about, and that's what their theater looked like. If the Elizabethans had a wide-open stage that would let their actors swirl all over it at the fastest possible rate, it was because England was busy thinking about exploring and conquering the whole world and was in quite a wonderful hurry to do it. What happened to us, to our stage, to show what we were thinking about? Well, we came to believe, with the new thrill of scientific investigation, in the power of the microscope, of life observed on a small glass slide. And we began to make our stage look like one. We came to believe that with all our wonderful new sciences, the social sciences, the physical sciences, that these were going to tell us the whole truth, finally, about human behavior. And human behavior is very much the concern of the theater. So we listened. We listened to every new idea. If we were told that human character is largely determined by environmental forces surrounding it, well, we started to put those environmental forces, the walls, the tables, all the chairs, on the stage. We surrounded the actor with them. If we were told that character was also influenced by heredity, by grandpa and grandma on both their glands, we promptly put grandma and grandpa somewhere in the set. The universe was narrowing down to a test tube, so we narrowed right down with it, until at last we had a theatrical specimen that could stand scrutiny under a microscope, that could meet the accurate, realistic requirements of the scientists. It was exact, it was factual, it left nothing to chance or random imagination. Those are the drops going up again now. We arrived at something that could be measured against life and be found literally true. Because this was life laid out on a little glass slide, we called it a slice of life. Well, this is the world we live in. Even the philosophical world we live in, right up here on our stages. It's perfect. It belongs to our times. And yet, it does give us some trouble.